Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. This is a series of spotlights on remarkable exit planning advisors from across the country. And joining me on this segment is Todd Krough with Tealwood Asset Management. Todd, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you.
Todd, tell us a little bit about your work and specifically let us know who are the types of clients that you specialize in helping.
Yeah, so I've been a financial advisor for 35 plus years. The firm that I work for is Tealwood Asset Management, and we're primarily a manager of clients' assets. So, for instance, a traditional client might have seven figures that we have invested in the market. One of the things that I took over maybe about 10, 15 years ago was really starting to work with business owners. And over the last 5 years, I got an additional designation called a CEPA, Certified Exit Planning Advisor. So a lot of the clients that I work with are business owners. So as they still own the business, and then helping them to ultimately transition to selling the business.
Right on. So these business owners, you know that they're great at their craft and they're always thinking growth on a daily basis. Uh,
Right.
how much thought do they put into exit planning? Do they even know it's necessary or what that looks like? What do the questions sound like when they reach out to you?
Yeah, I usually get a business owner referral from another business professional like myself that work with business owners. And typically, you may know the statistic, or for the listeners, about 80 to 90% of the business owner's wealth is in the business itself. So a lot of times I might not be working with them as a traditional asset management client managing their money. We'll actually charge them a fee from a financial planning perspective. So, like you said, when they ultimately get referred to me, they might have a business plan, but they typically don't have a financial plan. So, knowing, if they want to exit in 5 or 10 years, what have they developed from a financial plan? So that's really one of the first things that I'll do when I sit down with the client is develop a financial plan with them. Hopefully, they have a business plan. And then the third thing, which is part of the SEPA program, is to have some type of a personal plan, because a lot of times when a business owner sells, they have a hard time getting adjusted, right, to the what do I do? I can only play so much golf or fish or travel. So even sometimes just psychologically helping them with the personal plan. But where we really help is the financial plan, getting them to know what they need when they ultimately retire. Are they going to have enough? And when they value the business today, how much do we have to get the business growing to get the type of assets that they need to retire?
You know, it's interesting because the business owners, they don't understand the aspects that they need and when to actually begin planning. And it's called exit planning, which implies maybe I do this at the end of the game, but it sounds to me like you don't necessarily know when the end's going to be. What if there's a forced exit? What if there's you know a death in the family, or you have to exit the business for a reason that you didn't even predict? When is the best time to go through this process?
Well, it's a great point, and I don't think I think you get started the minute you own a business. Planning for the exit, because as you mentioned, we call it the 5 Ds. It's death, disability, divorce, disagreement. Any of those things could pop up, and now the business owner is forced to sell at a point where they maybe don't want to. So as far as the planning goes, I think obviously when I get referred to somebody, we would encourage any business owner to start planning for their exit once they start the business. There's always a good time. And so I would say as immediate and as often as possible.
Do you see business owners, when you start to work with them in this area, do you see any big, glaring mistakes that they commonly make or any pitfalls that they're always falling into that you could kind of warn people about?
Yeah, I think number one would be, again, having all of your money in the business. I think taking some of that money and maybe monetizing it and getting it into the markets at some point, starting a 401k, a SEP, maybe having a separate brokerage account so that they get acclimated to having the money. Because ultimately, when they sell the business and monetize it, they're going to have a pretty big chunk of money. And all of a sudden, just to go into the stock market is pretty risky for them. So getting them to start out by at least getting some money into the markets is number one thing. I think the other thing is, kind of what the SEPA program is to make sure that all of your advisors are working on the same page. typically when we're working with a business owner, we usually have one person that's the quarterback, might be their accountant or maybe a business advisor. But I'll give you an example of a successful exit that I worked with. They had an accountant, and then the business advisor kind of took over working with the client to sell the business. And they brought me in as the financial advisor. And then they had an estate planning attorney that had passed away. So they needed a new estate planning attorney. And I knew the law firm that they worked for. So we brought that person in. And then we also needed to have a broker or an M&A person that's going to help them sell the business. So we all worked together, even though there was one person that was kind of leading the team in a sense. Having all of the advisors on the same page, not working in silos, really makes for a successful exit. We did a survey in the Twin Cities about 5 years ago, and only 20 to 30% of the businesses that go to sale are successful. So we really, there's that 70% that we really need to work on. So I think having business advisors, the CPA, the financial advisor, all working on the same page really makes for a successful exit.
That's really fascinating insight. I appreciate that. Todd, what inspired you to get into this field and help, business owners with their exit planning or their transition planning? How did you get started?
Yeah, for a long time, I worked for a large investment firm for 20 years. And then I wanted to get away from a larger firm and get into a smaller firm like this. And as I got involved with the Exit Planning Institute and getting a SEPA, a lot of the referrals that I was getting from other advisors were business owners. 80% of the people that work out there are in some type of a small business. We define small business, the small to mid-size, maybe from 1 million to 25 million in sales. And, I really saw those people struggling. As I said, only the 20 to 30% of the sales are successful. So I wanted to get in this community of other advisors that could help these business owners be successful. And, they've been beaten up a lot, right? You had the 2008 crisis where their values went in half. You had COVID. And so as the bell curve, the baby boom generation is getting right on this high end here, there's just a lot more businesses that are going to be going up for sale here in the next 5 to 20 years. So I think helping with that community helping the business owner, but then working with other advisors that are on the same page is very important to me.
Before I ask you my last question, is there anything that I didn't think to ask you that you feel is like really important to share with business owners and something important that they need to keep in mind when they're considering their exit?
No, I think in review, I would say number one for the business owners, have a plan, not just a business plan, have a personal and financial plan. And then I really think it's important. I think they'll be more successful the more that their advisors don't be afraid to have advisors. I would say let's say on the exit, let's call it a 1% fee for all the advisors together. So let's say on a $10 million sale, it's maybe going to cost them 1% to have all these advisors together. So I think sometimes, business owners are reluctant. They have their CPA, but to have several other advisors, they might be a little more reluctant to have that, but they're going to have a much more successful exit. To have an exit where if the value is 7 million, but they can get to 10 million, it's worth it to have that, to pay that extra 1%.
For business owners listening that would like to speak with you, how can they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
Yeah. So our website is tealwood.com, and then they can just look me up under the advisors. I also have a LinkedIn, so I do have a profile under LinkedIn, but feel free to go to our website and connect with me there.
This has been terrific. Todd, I really appreciate you taking the time to share with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Thank you very much.
That was Todd Krough with Tealwood Asset Management. And this segment was brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals get their books done and published to educate consumers, grow their businesses, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.